he said. There we go. Welcome, everybody, to all those tuning in chat. Welcome to episode 99 of the Crossover Podcast. We have a very, very special guest with us today. He is in Paul's words, because he wanted a Tyler 1 style title to this, but it was a little too long for Twitch. He is the, reigning, defending,
undisputed
LCS championship owner, Andy Miller. Welcome to the
go.
podcast.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you.
What's life been like since winning a chip?
Well, that was awesome because it was just very unexpected and it was fun. And going through life with no expectations on something like that, and then having your sort of dreams fulfilled right away was just completely unexpected. Totally fun. Even more fun, I went out to Korea and watched the guys play there and make it to the top 8, which was just amazing as well. And it's a super likable group. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind on the league side, that's for sure.
Were you able to stay out there the entire time, or was it just like a partial trip?
No, partial trip. It's so long. Oh my gosh. Just, they gotta condense this a little bit. But no, I got to see up until the quarterfinals.
Don't say that to league fans, or they will get a little bit mad about that. Worlds is like
They like waiting. They like waiting for quarters to semis here.
It's a double-edged sword. It builds up anticipation, but there's a lot of people that are on like the double elimination hype train, which would technically mean more games over that period of time, which would help fill the gap. But I don't think anybody wants less than a month for the tournament duration.
Right.
So
I guess it's not that dissimilar to college basketball and the length of that whole tournament.
Yeah, I guess that really is a month for the NCAA tournament, isn't it?
At least, yeah.
Dang.
Yep.
So to kind of throw this back to the beginning, because you guys are newer to League of Legends, but also not at the same time. You were in League way back during the relegation era. Going back to 2016, when NRG did get relegated from the league, you guys eventually did part. But franchising opens up the next year. Were you guys hoping to be a part of franchising during that time? Did you apply, or like what was the journey like to try and get back into League of Legends now 6 years later?
Okay. So we loved being in League back in the day. I think I've sort of gone on record stating we always wanted to come back, and we had a makeshift team there. I love GBM, Ganked by Mom. Big shout out for him. He was one of my favorites. We actually had some good talent on the team, but we got into it as a hobby. So NRG was started by myself, a guy Mark Masteroff, who's a great friend who started 24 Hour Fitness, and Shaquille O'Neal. And the three of us were Sacramento Kings basketball NBA co-owners, and it was a hobby. And we got in, we said league's the place to be. Shaq was super into it. And we didn't really, know what we were getting into with how sort of sophisticated the teams were and the whole infrastructure. And we actually did okay our first split, and then disaster. And then we're out. And we got asked if we wanted to submit. They liked working with us, and we were trying hard and working on our brand. And Riot asked if we wanted to come back and apply, and we talked about it, and we just thought that that was our game, that was our only game at the time. And we felt, we didn't have anything to offer at the time or anything to compete. We weren't adult enough. We didn't think we could make a dent in a world that seemed to be dominated by TSM, Cloud9, others at the time. So we went to other games to see where we could make our name, like Rocket League, where we were one of the original teams and eventually world champs and won a million North American championships. And then Overwatch, where we poured our heart and soul, and I believe had the best brand, and won 2 of the years and made the finals the next year.
When you guys were like during that stretch, obviously League was probably on top of the world. I'd say probably the biggest esport. I mean, it still is to a certain extent now, but you had games like Overwatch coming in. The Call of Duty League was rising continuously. I know League was like the cream of the crop, but was there a game at the time that you thought might be able to contend back then?
Maybe Overwatch. Overwatch had great hype. We were in it with some super, big players like Seagull and others. Any of the Overwatch fans remember those matches, in Korea and all over before Overwatch League got together. We loved it, and it was just fun. And we were actually the first game ever against the Valiant. Why do I always get that wrong? I have like a mental block with that.
Yeah,
I'll say
I think it
Immortals.
was the LA was it the LA Valiant? Yeah.
Yeah, Valiant. I don't know why I just can't say that word. Um, and I remember sitting in the audience there. We got our ass kicked. I remember sitting there and I was like, I was watching on Twitch at the same time. And it was like 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. I was like, holy shit. Like those are some big numbers. And we're sitting in that. If you ever got a chance to go to the Blizzard studio, there was
Did
an
not.
amazing arena, amazing, super fun, immersive. And I was like, okay, this is where we want to be. And we weren't good, which was troubling for half the year until we did what we always do and find the best coaching out there. We got crusty, and sort of the rest was history.
Dang.
Yeah, and then transitioning over to NRG when you went to with GAM and you did the Asia run.
Mhm.
How do you think that helped with you learning about what was going to happen in LCS and getting back into LCS? And do you think it was beneficial?
A little bit, like we wanted to have some say in there, and it helped with sort of just seeing less about like what LCS was going to be about and just more like working with Riot. The sort of maybe lack of support they felt in Vietnam that is now more comfortable with more support. So feeling better there and the interactions. TK, if you guys know TK, he's a
Very well.
fucking nut. He's amazing and super fun. I got to spend time with him in Korea, and I just love his energy, and we had a great time. We actually had to divest ourselves as of like last week or this week, so that there's no conflict. So we're not part of GAM anymore.
I remember talking to him last year during Worlds. I think it was right before the crazy game between Gam and I think Top. Him and I were talking for like 20, 30 minutes, and his passion for the game is on like Kadrill's the only Kadrill, Kometo, who owns K Corp, and Ibai are the only three that I would put on that same category of just like
Mhm.
genuinely loves the game more than anybody else in the world. And you could just see it like whenever GAM won their title back at, or I think it was spring or something like that. They had like a
Yeah,
motorcade like going through the streets of
yeah, in the
Vietnam, and he's
streets.
just
Yeah.
on there hyping everyone up. It's like, dude, that's amazing.
He's a king out there. His family is very well known, and he's just one of these guys who loves life. So you just love. He's contagious, and he's a great marketer. You just want to be with him and hang out. He's super fun. He's a great family.
Dang. So then you guys, as you said, you've divested, but now you are back in the LCS.
Yes,
I
sir.
gut feeling said the moment that you guys went with GAM that it was just a matter of time until you finally got back here. I'm glad that you proved me right on that one. It feels really good to be able to say that. But there, coming into the first split, like what were your expectations picking up the majority, well, all the pieces from CLG and like their league pillar? What was the goal by the end of this year? Obviously, winning a title is an added bonus, but
Yeah.
surely that was not the plan to begin with.
No. So it was to learn. That was the goal. So, we got a lot of shit for a lot of different things, and we love the passion of the CLG fans. But on the league side, we kept everybody, all the coaches. We actually added a coach as well, and we made, everyone made fun of us with our 36 coaches. But that's always been our thing is like we have let the coaches run. This is learn from them, build through the continuity of players, but also coaches. So we wanted to just see how we would do. We made an investment. We swapped out two players that worked out great with FBI and Ignar, especially FBI with his sort of leadership in the game was something that was lacking, and gave everybody confidence and a different attitude. And it started horribly. The first two matches, I was like, oh my God. I remember like we have a really, if you know our group, like, we've never had the biggest staff, but they're so passionate about everything and everybody sort of bleeds, energy. So just losing those games, I could, we all watch together or on Discord or on Slack, and they were like, oh my God. I was like, guys, can't get any worse. I think so. We have nothing to lose here. We're learning, and we're hopefully trying to be in it for the long run. So we really wanted to learn. We wanted to understand where everybody else was, how it was to work with Riot, what our resources would be, but how to be, competitive in a very much changing landscape. And as you guys have talked about on your podcast and others have, like the landscape since we bought the team in April has changed considerably. The entire infrastructure of a LCS team has been turned upside down in a way, and there are roles that aren't as important, and there are roles that are more important, and there are roles that aren't needed. And it's just the reality, without really a system of, to use baseball terms, minor league baseball, minor league teams and farm system and developmental and instructional league, like it just doesn't exist for the most part. So it just has all changed, and that's a function of the economy, if you will.
Had you guys been in, I don't remember the timing of this, but had you been in whenever the vote happened for the removal of the academy system?
Yeah, we were in that.
Were you in favor of removing the academy system? Like, if so, what do you think needed to be different? Like, what needs to happen immediately there?
Yeah, I love the academy system. I love minor league baseball. I used to own a minor league baseball team. My godson's a minor league baseball player. Like, I love the whole thing. I'd rather even watch that than Major League Baseball. But and I was the last vote because I felt I just gonna wait to hear what everybody else said, because I didn't feel like we had the standing everybody else did just coming in here. So I wasn't a flag waver on everything. But it was an option. So I felt that there were a bunch of teams, and I was in a unique position because there was more than CLG who was willing to sell their business. So I got to look at some of the P&Ls of the other businesses, and it doesn't work unless everyone's doing okay. You can't have a bunch of teams not investing in the space, not making content, having shitty rosters. It's a league. You're only as strong as your weakest part. So to have that option that where you could do it or not do it, I thought was really important. And I kind of could tell that everyone was eventually not going to do it, even though everybody probably wanted to do it. Right now, economically, it didn't make sense.
Fair.
Alrighty. And then going over to that roster change you made with Ignar and FBI, was that more of a legacy CLG decision, or was that something where NRG came in and evaluated the roster and decided that was the best place to upgrade?
The latter. It was the coach's decision. So we sat down with them. CLG was not going to make that move. They weren't going to make any move. In fact, they might not have even been around for that split. So it was over with Madison Square Garden CLG. And I know we got a lot of shit for losing the CLG brand and all that. And I get it. I love the passion, but like, we saved the team. It wasn't going to happen.
Yep.
It was done. They were not going forward. They made a corporate decision. They're a bazillion-dollar company. It just wasn't what they wanted to do. And when companies like that, like the one you work for, David, decide to cut something, they just do it. So we sat down and we talked with all the coaches, and we was like, how can we help you be better here? One of the decisions was to increase the coaching staff, which is nuts in a way. It's like watching an NBA team where they have a coach for the big guys and the little guys, and before you know it, there's like 13 coaches and clipboards sitting behind 10 players. It's hilarious. But we did that, and then they said, the thing we really want to do was upgrade the bot lane, and these are the people we have potential to go after. And so we talked to a whole bunch of people and got great conversations going with certain people. Other people were just like, hey, we can't afford this. This is not for us. And we thought that Ignar and FBI would be great combo together. And they were really motivated to come play for us. So, it worked out incredibly well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then is that coaching? Because you mentioned coaching a lot. Is that from like Shaq's side? Was that more of him pushing you guys into that realm of how important coaching is?
No, it was Overwatch.
Okay.
We learned as we went along, like, you got to have the strategy and the coaching, especially in League. Like, there's no game like it. But like, we were able to build a team because we got Krusty for Overwatch, and then players wanted to play for Krusty because he was so helpful to their careers. And then you started to have access to better players, and then you could see how unbelievably well prepared they are. And I think that was the key. We have great players on energy on League, but I don't think we would have made it without this coaching staff. And you could see the more time we had to prepare for a game, the better we did. This team was incredibly, Croissant's great and Thinkard and the whole staff, but these guys strategically, we felt like we were never going to be out of anything. Like, was I surprised we made it to the 8? Yeah, of course. Was I shocked? No. Like every time I talk to coaches, they're like, okay, we have a pretty good game plan. We feel like we're going to compete. Hopefully some things will break away. Not like, hey, we have no chance. We've been there before also. So even in the final game, like the first game was really close. We thought we had it, and then it fell apart. But you got to have that infrastructure for coaching. I don't know if you need a million coaches or you need a couple great ones, but that was, I think, a big difference maker to us. And so when you have those great coaches, you listen to them, and we're really big on just getting input from everybody. And there's no game we've ever been in where we're like, we're picking this guy up. Maybe Rocket League, because I was obsessed with Squishy for a little bit, and because C9 kept beating us. But other than that, it's always been the players and the coaches.
So going on that, probably the biggest headline of the week is that Myra and Jonathan were let go from the NRG League side. Jonathan was the general manager, one of the guys that built the pillar that was CLG's like League of Legends silo that you brought over. Myra, I'm not 100% certain on her day-to-day responsibilities.
It was like Jonathan's assistant manager.
Yeah.
Person.
What, I guess, just bluntly, why them? Like, what was the decision behind making layoffs in the first place, and why were they the ones impacted specifically?
Yeah, I don't think the word layoff is correct. It's not like there was some corporate manifest. We haven't really had a layoff at NRG. It wasn't like we have to cut costs here. We have to compete. And I'd love to get into also what's happening with the other teams, because
absolutely,
when there's a problem with the economics of the space, it's our fault. It's the owner's fault, 100%. All right, like teams are running it up again on salary, and it makes absolutely no sense. You can't cry about we want Riot to give us this, and the publishers need to do this, and we need in-game item this, and we need more of this, and then go and they give you money and you just spend it because you think you should. What this harkens back to what we just talked about earlier, where I would say the biggest role for both of those folks, but especially Jonathan, who's awesome, by the way, and a complete thumbs up on a recommendation for him. He's a great guy and very, very, very smart. But he would tell you this also, and I think he was on the other podcast talking about a little bit. The world has changed. So when you needed a general manager, a standalone general manager, and Myra also, when we had a developmental system, we had a bunch of players, you have the coaches, you had an academy team, we had a community stuff. We were, they were always looking for some advantage as a player, especially CLG, where it was harder to get free agents. There was an infrastructure of dozens and dozens and dozens of people under that, and doesn't exist anymore. We voted it out. It's gone. So there's just 5 players, of which the majority are under contract, and a bunch of coaches. That was it. So we needed the money to compete, to keep those coaches, to keep our players, to get new players if we lose some of our players, because a lot of our players have been, approached by some other teams and agents. And that's how it worked out. So I think, unfortunately, those roles became a relic of, a luxury to have a standalone GM. I don't know if any teams have, I don't know, you could tell me, but I don't think they have a standalone, just all they do is GM the team and have, anywhere near the coaching staff we have.
The only one, I mean, speaking from 100 Thieves, because they're the organization I know best, I know Jungle Juice, I believe, is still technically general manager. I believe that's his role. But I guess just following up then, like reorging and restructuring then, who do their responsibilities then go towards? Because say, for example, there is a change at some point in time that's needed, whether it's whether it's to coaching staff or to players, who now has that responsibility if the general manager is no longer there?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're a bit of bullpen by committee. We'll make a formal announcement, I think next week on the role and title. But I mean, we already have that covered in my mind. We have an incredible staff. So between Croissant, who's our strategic coach, and Jamie Kohenka, who you met, who's our overall head of gaming, and my partner in Big Toe, Thinkard, like there's, from a player standpoint, I mean, I think we know what we were going to do months ago. Like we're trying to ride with our guys and do our best with it. So there's not a lot of GMing to do if you're thinking of it in the traditional sense, anyways, as far as the players. But I think what's attractive when we talk to players, and I also feel we were at a big disadvantage, which I'll get back to, but for being a winner. But when you get back to when you talk to players, I think our coaching staff is a big plus as to why people would want to go play with us. And I'll tell you about the disadvantage. The disadvantage, which I'm sure happens in every league, but man, now I'm the newbie, so get the shine on my bald head, the scuff there now. We won, right? We kept playing. No one else did. No one else did, and they were home, and they were all talking to players and getting verbals, and you guys are reporting on this, and free agent this, and people under contract having conversations with them, at least through agents, and we're not going to do that. Like, imagine if we wanted to replace Palafox, which we don't. All right, just a hypothetical, please. Like, and we had a conversation with an agent or something in the middle of the whole tournament, and he found out about, like, how shitty would that be? Like, we couldn't do any of that stuff. We couldn't even be reactive to rumors we were hearing. So we were just like, okay, we got to wait for our guys to come home, and then we wanted to give them a minute to breathe, at least to have some sleep and some food, and you're right back in it. So it's kind of weird. Like in Overwatch, and I keep bringing it up just because that's the other formal league we were in. Players were all under contract until I think it was like 14 days after the world champion is crowned, and then you can talk to people. Here, it feels like it's been going on for a while.
Yeah. And I remember when G2
I was
did
about
that
to say
at
the
an
hot
MSI.
tub.
Yeah, they fired. They didn't fire. They moved on from some player, their bottom lane mid MSI, and their bottom lane just started running it, and everybody was like, "Why are they running it down? What's going on?" And then after the tournament, their bottom lane goes, "Yeah, we were told we were getting replaced after MSI, so we just decided to run it the rest of the tournament." And I was like, "Oh my."
Amazing. Yeah, it is a disadvantage that's for sure. And
Yeah.
it would be the wrong thing to do also. So we're playing a little bit from behind.
Is there anything that you think can change to try and prevent that? Like, is it just on like agents and everybody else to be more respectful of contract timing and everything
I think
else?
it's on Riot. I think it's on Riot. Like, say, here's the rules. The rules are you can contact people when the season's over, and everybody has a equal playing field. I'm not bitching about it. I guess it's been going on forever, but it was a bit of news to me. And if we wanted to make a move now, there's not a lot of people who are out there who we feel would be at our caliber. That would be an upgrade. So challenging.
Yeah. And then with that, what does the future of NRG LOL kind of look like? Like, what brand identity are you going for? And what changes are you making to kind of reflect that?
Sure. So as far as the overall brand is the NRG brand, and I love our social. I think it's been fun. I think we've kind of made a lot of content and the social media. CLG was getting 25, 30, 40, 50 likes a post. They were getting fewer posts than they had employees, which always would piss me off as a CEO, but I think, there wasn't much, overview there, leadership. But the fans are really passionate and they wanted to see content, and, they were trying somewhat, but it was $1 short, whatever the phrase is there. So we've made a lot. We have great social, I think. We always have. We've always been a content team. We trying our best. We actually didn't have as much access to our players and crew as we thought we did. We sent the whole crew. We had the photographer, videographer, social people in Korea, but our guys were pretty locked down and very focused. So we're gonna keep that going. We're lovable. I hope we're lovable in the Shaq realm. Like you asked about, like with Shaq, did he ever talk to you about the coaches? And he didn't. But when we got relegated, he called me up and we had a conversation, and I said, he's like, everyone says you're all bummed out. I'm like, yeah. He's like, this is supposed to be a fun hobby. I'm like, it's not a hobby. This is not fun. This is serious shit. And he's like, man, if you had any hair, it would have fallen out already. I'm like, well, you have no hair either. And he's like, listen, you got to be more like me. That's the NRG brand. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, look at me. I'm attractive to everyone. I said, what does that mean? He's like, well, I'm a champion. I'm one of the best basketball players in history, and I hate losing more than I like winning. I said, we got that covered. He's like, yeah, okay, but we're not champions. He's like, we can build that. Let's stay in that. He's like, I'm a DJ. DJ Diesel. He takes that very seriously. He's
I
like,
know.
I'm working on my craft. I love it. I love being in front of people. I love performing. He's a criminologist. He has a degree in criminology. He has a ride along badge, and he literally rides along and goes on, trips with in the police cars in Florida with the sheriffs. I mean, imagine getting pulled over and Shaq comes walking up to you, walking up to you. He's a nut, and if you've ever seen him when he's not working, he's exactly the same. And he's wonderful. He's a philanthropist, an incredible philanthropist, and he's really relatable, which is the bottom line. He's the world's biggest kid. He's like, that's us. Like, we're not gonna be shit posters. We're not gonna take ourselves too seriously. We're gonna try as hard as we can. We're gonna have best infrastructure we can. We're gonna do everything we can to be around for a long time and give someone something to hold on to identify with. But we're gonna just have fun doing it, and that's it. And that's what I do, and that's what we've tried to do from day one. That's been our brand, and fortunately, we've had players that fit into that as well. We have some that are very serious, and we have some that are just super goofy, but they understand when they come into our environment that we don't take ourselves too seriously, and I think they lighten up and we have a good time.
Kind of circling back to something you said earlier, but along those lines, you mentioned the state of teams, basically the state of the LCS in general. I mean, you took over you took over CLG when they were falling off and pretty much not going to exist in the future state. But you also entered the LCS and arguably, I would say, our worst period ever. Even though the broadcast itself has gotten better, and I don't want anybody that works for Riot on the broadcast side to take that personally, because I think the product itself is better this year than it has been in years past. But our viewership is atrocious compared to what it once was. Me personally, hate the day change. Hate that we're playing on weekdays. But there's so many other things that fans just are screaming to anybody that will listen for change, for something to come along to reinvigorate this game, this franchise, because obviously the game itself is doing incredibly well internationally. The JDG T1 series this weekend is probably going to break viewership records across every metric. But then domestically here, we can't even get 100,000 people to tune in for our most popular matches consistently. Like, what do we have to do differently? Like, what can possibly change? Because something has to.
Okay. Well, there's two questions there. One, why? I guess you were starting with why. Why would you jump in when we're at our lowest point? And then the second is, what do we do? And that's exactly why we jumped in, because I told you earlier, we didn't jump in when we were at the highest point because we didn't really feel we could compete or have anything to offer. We jumped in at this point because this is the most passionate fan base I think there is. You can argue with it, but it's an incredible fan base, and it's incredibly vocal, and it's incredibly loyal. Watching matches at 1 PM on a fucking Thursday or whatever it is, while they're trying to do their job. Like, that's a hard thing to build a brand and build viewership. I also spent a bunch of time with Riot through the Valorant process, and I was really impressed. I felt that they knew what if I was going to hitch my star to anybody, our wagon, whatever there is to anyone's star, is going to be these guys. We didn't have the best experience with Blizzard Activision, even though we were kind of the marquee brand. And I feel that the game is very strong everywhere else, like you were saying. So there's a lot of changes we can make to introduce the game to folks here in the States and get this thing back to some level of growth. I also think there's going to be an update to this game at some point, and we're in it for as long as we can be in it. So hopefully we'll be around when it has that. But there's a bunch of things that a lot of the owners can do that I've been suggesting that Riot can do. None of these are originally any ideas. And Jack and I talk a lot about the narrative. The narrative, and this is my wording, not his, but same sentiment. The narrative is of League and everywhere is, correct me if I'm wrong or you disagree, but it's play your matches, go to MSI, do your thing, whatever. But everything builds towards this world championship where everyone in all the regions are doing the same thing and they all get together. And this is the goal. Obviously, this is the pinnacle of it. And it's set up for us to fail, obviously, and we don't compete. And then you automatically start to feel like you're, a minor league region, a minor league team. And the difference between the Colorado Rockies and my minor league team, the Modesto Nuts, is pretty significant when it comes to attention and viewership. So we want to change that. There's got to be more than just trying to win the whole thing and try and compete with the Asian teams. So there needs to be more events. There needs to be meaningful events, kind of like the way Valorant did it this year. There were 3 really cool events in Brazil and in it was Tokyo,
Yeah.
and then in LA. And they're all really valuable and really meaningful. And we understood there were fewer regular season games, and we understood what they meant. And it wasn't just, go play for 27 minutes on Thursday and then that's it. So we want to have more events. We want to have bigger events. We want to have much more regional battles. Like, I mean, we've had matches when we were in Counter-Strike with MIBR and, tried to make fun of them for a second and watched our social get torched for about 2 weeks. And it wasn't much, it wasn't dissimilar when we beat G2 here in League and then lost. And of course, every comment was from a G2 fan, but I love it. Like, let's go. Let's have more NA, European, LEC setup here. Same with South America. The regions should be playing each other more. There should be meaningful competitions, point systems, trophies, cups, sponsors. We need to have more live events. You go to these events and you're hooked, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Rocket League, insane. Overwatch, fantastic. League, fantastic. Like, you can't not be a fan, and we need to get people that option, to go see these things and then make the game, a little bit more understandable and more attractive, I guess, to the college age kids and the high school age kids, because I think we might be losing them a little bit.
God damn, if that isn't music to my fucking ears at this point. Like, I am so, like, the amount of times we've been told that it either A, it's not within budget to do more events, to like go out and try and activate with more people. It's annoying at this point, because it's like you go to finals, or like we host bi-weekly watch parties here in New York City, and the turnout's been dwindling as we've gone to weekdays, but even when it was on weekends, it's like that was the highlight for so many people, was being able to get out and activate in person and do more than just sit at home, watch it on TV, watch it on Discord, and try to mobilize that as much as possible. To hear that somebody else is on that page, at least publicly, is phenomenal.
I think all the owners are, and I think Riot's listen. Like, we've had meetings with them; they've been great. So it's not going to happen, next year, because next year is in 2 months. Yeah. But there will be change for sure. And this game is too important to all of esports and the whole ecosystem to not be the crown, the jewel in the crown. So we got to make that work.
It's interesting that sorry, Paul, I'll let you go one second. I just wanted to mention this. It's interesting that you say you want more events like across regions.
Yeah.
We do see growth though domestically in leagues like the LFL, which is France's league. You see it with the CBLOL in Brazil, where obviously the fandom tends to be a little bit more diehard and passionate in its nature compared to America, where, with top teams, even in the NFL and NBA, if you're not winning or not competing for an extended period of time, viewership starts plummeting. Yeah. But there is that level of domestic pride where it's like the LFL is never going to be at Worlds, yet they're packing out the World's final stadium. CBLOL couldn't beat us if they tried, and yet they're still growing in viewership and pride every single time. So it's like, even though there is that clear end goal of Worlds, and even though that still does exist, and I'm not denying that portion of it, some people are finding a way to grow despite that, but not us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. And that's the risk of investing in this space and being an org and an owner. Like, I think one of the reasons why NRG, we have our 8th anniversary this month, which is amazing, because went from a hobby to I've been doing this for 8 years. I'm getting old. I was already old, but I'm getting older. I think the reason why we've been around and been able to continue to grow over years is that we never really had an identity based on an owner who was part of a community. One game, we weren't the Call of Duty guys. We weren't all just a content creator, because all those things come and go, unfortunately. And one bad, update of a game, and all of a sudden your investment's gone, or your content creator has an issue and he's not, or she's not popular anymore, and you're screwed. So we've kind of been everyman for a while, and I think that the bet was with League that it was that game, and Riot was so dedicated, committed to it, that it would be around for a long, long time, and they would make it work, and the fans weren't going to go away. And hopefully, as you can see by like the average age of the league fan, I'm sure is older than other games. That you just have to bring the new fans to the table, and you have to give them an exciting product.
And with that, bringing new fans, I would kind of want to throw it over to what most of your ownership group has been involved in is the NBA and how LCS could they learn anything in your opinion from the NBA? And then a big point we've been kind of debating or wondering is the media rights deals in that because I know the Suns have moved away kind of from doing an actual media rights deal to now doing broadcasts locally so they can try to reach more fans. Do you think for League of Legends is it worth them taking a media rights deal to kind of push the revenue floor up, or is it better to just keep doing what they're doing and putting it on YouTube and Twitch?
I just don't think there's enough value in the media rights deal, so you gotta
Mhm.
keep it to the on the platforms where the most platforms where everybody can fall in love with it. So the we don't really know how many fans there are in a way. Yeah, there's been lots of conversations. There's a bazillion esports fans. Okay, but then you have to chop it up. Like that's like saying there's a bazillion sports fans. Sure, there's sports fans, but my best friend's a cricket fan. He's never watching the NBA, and I got go down the list. So um, I think the NBA, I think we can learn a fair amount from the NBA as far as like a league. And I think the NBA is the best run league. Commissioner Silver is awesome. When we first got the team, and Commissioner Stern, who is the greatest, was a huge advocate of Sacramento and spent a lot of time with us. And as it went along and Silver took over, I got fortunate to talk to him once or twice in our group as well. And he was really into esports. He was really into Twitch. He was fascinated with Twitch. He knew streaming was coming. He wanted the NBA eventually to have a screen there where you're watching the game and there's chat going on and there's betting lines and there's health monitors on the players and there's all sorts of advanced statistics and sponsored stuff and play along stuff and messaging. And that's what he saw when he looked at Twitch, and he looked at the way that we went about sort of streaming and creating content and the high energy that was involved with it. He loved that, and he loved the idea of a mid-season tournament. He thought that was fantastic of what MSI and others, and they finally did it. It's going to be interesting to pull it off. I'm sure it'll be a work in progress, and everybody will bitch about it, but I think it's a really cool idea. Just like same thing, right? What's the narrative of the NBA? Play your 82 games, make the playoffs, play a whole bunch more, get to the final two, and win. That's the narrative. And if you don't get there, it's somewhat of a disappointment or a disaster. And I think Carmelo Anthony was quoted like he's like, was it him? I think it was. He's like, we had so many great memories. We had so many ridiculous games, so many this, so many that. And every time I talk to Knicks fans, they're just like, you didn't win. You never won. What happened? It's like, what, are you fucking kidding me? Like only one guy wins. Everyone else is a loser. So it's the same narrative we just talked about. Like let's have other things you can win that are meaningful and that fans can get excited about. So I think there's a lot to learn from both, really.
I'm gonna out Paul right before we hopped on this call. I was asking him about the tournament because he was watching Indiana's game.
Yeah.
And what were your words? It only matters if we win.
I told him because I said, yeah, I thought the mid-season tournament was dumb, but then we won our first two group games, and now I think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened
Super
to
cool. Yeah.
Pacers basketball. So
Hey, if you look at what we have, we as a esport community, that these other leagues are desperately trying to put together, and that is the global reach, right? Like we had just been in a tournament. We just played teams from Europe and teams from Asia, and
Yep.
it was incredible. And people watched all over the world. And you can see the NBA is trying to develop Africa, and they have a great European footprint and South America. And it won't be long until those are real leagues where they all play against each other. My dreadful Patriots are playing at 6:30 in the morning for me on Sunday in Hamburg, and they have permanent games in London, and that's going to happen also. And so the internet's the great destroyer and the great equalizer, and gives everybody a chance to see everything. So I think we have a lot of the building blocks to do something fabulous, especially with the way you look at the attention span of or the percentage of attention that you get from middle schoolers and high schoolers, and they're playing games. And it's if we can get them to watch games and like it and it becomes part of their lifestyle, they'll continue to do that. Maybe they won't play baseball or little league or whatever, but they'll be playing Call of Duty, and they'll watch the Call of Duty league when they grow up. And that's what we have to hope for. But that is not maybe that's your job as podcasters and content creators and everybody a little job, but that's the job of Riot and that's the job of Blizzard. And Overwatch League failed because Blizzard, for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons was we didn't get people who love to play Overwatch to watch Overwatch League, some small percentage. And similar, I don't know how many active monthly active users there are in League in North America, but it's obviously, we're getting a sliver of that also to watch the matches, and that's marketing awareness, creating a good product, getting people to, who doesn't want to watch the best people in the world play the game that you love?
Yeah, that is for certain. Mentioning the Overwatch League, do you think there is a future for geolocation in esports, or did we just pull the trigger too quick, or was not even pulling the trigger too quick? Was a $20 million starting point just too high?
Oh yeah, yes. I want to get into that. No, I mean terrible. There was a massive domino effect on that, massive. Because if you had to pay 20 million, you had to raise way more than 20 million to, and that made your company worth more, but they really weren't worth more at the time because they hadn't done anything yet. But that's the way venture capital works. You're paying for the future. And so we start to create these unsustainable ecosystems and high valuations and people raising a ton of money. And, then they're stuck when they've raised $140 million and, they're doing 10 million in revenue. But as far as the geolocation, I mean, I love the idea, but there's just not enough fans right now. That was the problem. There wasn't enough fans. So like Shock had a lot of fans and we were great in San Francisco, but one, really expensive for us to put on events in San Francisco. Oh my gosh, San Francisco is like the most expensive city in America. Union City, Union City, so union rates, and there was a lot of logistics involved with load in and setting up for Riot and broadcast, and like you want to put matches on for a day plus, it was like 4 days of renting a place out, and we were going to have 2 matches, and we would have sold them both out before the pandemic. That was 2,000 seats each. If we went to 4,000, I don't think we would have sold it, and if we did like 3 more or 2 more matches, it probably would have been fewer fans attending. And we were the defending champs and the most exciting team and the biggest social, and wasn't happening. So it was happening for a couple events, like NV put on great events down there, in Texas and Houston as well, New York, cool stuff. But there's just not enough fans to do like a real, like, hey, I'm the Toledo, whatever, and we're gonna have every other week an event for you guys to come.
I still feel like it. If you alleviate the expectation of having to put on an event, like actually host a couple $100,000, if not $1 million event in your city, but you just start it at hey, we've got a bar that you're gonna go to, and you can watch the games there consistently. We'll make sure it's on. And you can just start developing fans that way. Like you start small. Mm-hmm. There's no expectation of like, oh, we know there's probably not going to be an event here, but you at least dedicate some resources and you invest into the local economy that fans are giving back. That to me seems like it can scale as time goes on, as long as there's no pressure for it. Like you can't force that to grow. You just have to let it happen naturally. There's got to be a way to incorporate that somehow.
Yeah, I agree. We for Valorant, we have the NRG Castle in downtown LA. So for those of you who don't know, the castle is like a 20,000 square foot warehouse that's like a Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for gamers, or really was supposed to be a Rob Dyrdek's fantasy factory, if you will. And it's got crazy installations in there, and we've got like an Oval Office, and we've got a bunch of cool shit. Just it's super fun, and we have concerts and live events and big screen. And we had watch parties for our Valorant team every game practically, and fans came in and just got bigger and bigger, and people loved it. And there were a lot of people there who didn't give a shit about Valorant, but it was fun, and they were like, "Hey, energy's cool," and they were hanging out and drinking and watching matches and eating food, and it was community. And we got up to a couple 100, 300 people for a match, which was great. As it got more serious. So I agree with you on that, 100%. I also feel that you could do these leagues like you could do a 10-week, 8-week season for regular season, if you would, and you send it around like WWE style, and you go to different cities and you do it in New York, and I'm sure you'd be able to sell 5,000 tickets there. And then you go to LA and, everybody, you just get sponsors and Riot pays a bunch of it and someone's the host and they can sell the inventory. That I think is the way to go, but that kind of always got rejected for some reason.
That is Dave's dream. We
Fucking
have
Christ,
discussed
Jesus,
this
come
on
on.
podcast a lot. We got to talk to, what was his full name? Jordan
Sherman when he was
Yeah.
with Immortals, yeah.
when he was with them, and we were talking with him about events and going around LCS, and he was like, yeah, it's an idea. We're thinking about talking with them, and it just never happened. But our excitement for the idea of them, because they wanted to be the Great Lakes team at the time, for me was going to be cool, because they might have come to Indiana or something.
Yeah, okay.
It just never happened. Or Chicago, and I can drive to Chicago. It's hard for
Yeah.
me to drive/fly to the Riot Games studio in Los Angeles to catch a game.
Yeah.
The one that I said was
Yeah.
back whenever spring finals were in Charlotte. You have
Yep.
UNC, Duke, Wake Forest, or no, they were in Raleigh, sorry. You have Duke, UNC, Wake Forest,
NC State.
ECU. You have everybody pick a school and just like go to a school, do like a quick little like introduction, like talk to some of the kids on campus, and just promote the shit out of it on college campuses. And like get them to come in, because those are going to be the people that they're your future generation that you can build into. And plus, like, just give away a bunch of free tickets to college kids, because there were so many empty seats there that it was like,
Yeah.
come on, it's free.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Yeah. Yep. I mean, we don't have to have big, massive shows and events. You could have a couple people playing,
Yep.
2 teams playing somewhere in an auditorium at Duke for free for 1,000 kids, and you got 1,000, folks who are going to go home and fire up their game and play again, maybe if they hadn't in a long time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, because especially if Riot moves, well, I don't know if LCS does move to best of threes, but best of threes would also make that a bit easier to pull off. A team wanting to go somewhere and they play a best of 3 match in some location, 2 teams do,
Yeah.
and then come back. But for now, it doesn't seem to be. At least
Yeah, I'm
next
not
year would probably be
sure.
hard to pull off.
Yeah, I did hear rumors, like you guys heard, that maybe they're going to give us weekends back, but I'm not sure. So
Yes, weekends
might
would be.
One can pray
Come on.
that would be
Yeah.
good.
to not have to worry about, I have a 5:30 meeting on LRPs, and am I going to be able to catch 100th Heat? Nope, I'm not going to. Just catch up later. Well, great. And that's one of your 2 hours of League of Legends that you get to watch for your team that week gone. And it's like, oh, come on.
I went to almost all of our matches for Valorant, in the same studio, on the weekends, of course, and they were standing room only, all of them.
Wow. That's
only,
awesome, though.
They only gave us 3 or 4 seats for the org, because they sold them all. And
Wow.
League was not the case, but it's 11 o'clock or whatever it is on a Thursday.
You gonna watch World's Finals live or catch it on VOD after it's done?
Oh my gosh, no, I'll catch it. Like I traveled a bunch after that. I went to Phuket and Singapore. My sleep schedule sucks. Got to get it back.
I'm curious to see your thoughts then on the World's opening ceremony versus Valorant Champions opening ceremony.
Yeah,
whenever that comes.
That'd be exciting.
This is a throwback question to earlier in our conversation, but with that, the kind of, I guess there is no tampering in LCS, it seems, but if there were to be a no tampering period, how easy do you think it would be to pull off for teams? Because right now, with Asia Games, this one was pushed so far back, the Worlds was.
Yeah.
If they had an official period, would it just have to be based like last team standing, and then 14 days from there, everybody get your ducks in a row and figure it out? Or do teams coming back from Korea, at least the last team, need more time to kind of readjust sleep, like you were just saying, Singapore, and kind of get back into the rhythm?
A couple days, these announcements nonstop. They've reached a verbal agreement, but okay, like we just landed.
Yeah.
It's hard. So there's got to be something. and there probably are rules that I don't even know about that are all broken. Or a lot of it, goes through the agent. Oh, it's not the team. Hey, man, I didn't call him. His agent just wanted to, And then the other thing is the agents, they're no dummies. They know how they make money. So maybe your player's under contract, but they're like, oh, this guy just did fantastic. I know he's got another year and he gets a little bump, but I bet he can get better money because I just saw blah 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 is verbal, and he's going to be $100,000 more, so he's going to start shopping around, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, he's available, like, no, he's under contract. So that's always been a challenge as well. Like, you have players. We've never been an org to hold anybody to their contract if they really were miserable. Like, we never were like, hey, you know what, you got to stay. You got another year. If someone's genuinely miserable and doesn't want to be here, which hasn't happened a lot, or like, go ahead, whatever, as long as the team doesn't get ruined. So that's something we got to deal with also. Like, we're trying really hard to keep the band together. I don't know if it's going to be possible, but we're working on it now, and we got a couple free agents, so we'll see.
Curious, what's your take on the import situation within the LCS? Like, do you think teams are being more responsible with importing like this year going forward as a result of you guys winning, or are we still in the we'll pass up on North American talent whenever possible mode?
I don't know. You probably would know better than I have because I haven't followed, where everybody is. I'm learning still where everyone's from and where they're going. I just know that there are some teams like FlyQuest is spending a lot of money. Jack, love him dearly, but he went for it, that's for sure. And that was not the plan, at least what he was talking about as far as what his budget was going to be like. So all of a sudden, you got to compete. One, those players are gone. Two, you got to compete, and they're getting much higher salaries than we would offer. So it was hard. Jamie and I were talking the other night, and I was a little bummed out. There was somebody I was really interested in if we couldn't sign all of our players, and he was going to be in a certain range, and he went somewhere else, and it was so much higher. And even talking to the agent's like, I didn't think we were going to get that money. And it's just like, okay, you got to be, there's always somebody every year who does this, or two in every game, and it kind of sucks. So it's hard to cry poor, and it's hard to ask Riot for this and that, and it's hard to say we can't afford academy and this and that, and then you go and you spend it. And the players should make whatever they can make, but if you want to be around and you want to have the continuity, then you have to have some fiscal responsibility as I think as a league. So we'll see, but I like where we're going, when we were trying to be here for a while and trying to keep things real with our guys.
Yeah.
So, they have a right to move around.
I will keep warning people about FlyQuest. They are in year 2 of the same 5-year cycle that we've seen from Team Liquid, that we've seen from 100 Thieves. Well, 100 Thieves a little bit less, because year 2 for 100 Thieves was not one that most people want to remember. But they're in that cycle of just like burning cash. And there's no way these last 2 years of the rosters that they've built that they have been anywhere close to break even. If they are, by all means, Papa Smithy, come out, tell me that I'm wrong. I will put as much.
And don't get me wrong, like, they can do whatever they want, right? It's their money, and they have their business model, and they put together awesome teams. Like, I'm jealous. Those are great fucking teams we have to compete with. But it's just, we're in a cycle of this business now where we need real stability in the orgs that we have, and we need to show people that these are businesses that can make money, that they're attractive for investors, acquirers, partners, fans, and there's something to attach themselves to. Otherwise, it's just like a revolving door of players and teams and orgs, and we didn't enter League of Legends because we didn't think we could ever compete with TSM, and now TSM's not in the league. It makes no sense.
Yeah, Paul. Tell me more about how TSM's not in the league.
That right there, kind of a bad investment by me. But with you saying, what was it? How this was supposed to be a learning experience, but obviously you end up winning it, so it kind of becomes a huge win, I guess, and also hurts because it costs more money to keep players who win. But it's still kind of crazy the effect that NRG had on the league and the fans just because you guys won and convinced everybody, oh, our talent is like good enough. And then we hear what you say with Jack. It's like he goes and possibly spends a lot of money to build this roster that's kind of crazy, and it's not really imported, I guess, too much more than I guess yours would be imported. But it's still like, wow, we're still having teams that just spend a ton of money. Do you think that that is like kind of hurtful to the league, or do you think it's like more just it is what it is, and other teams just have to figure it out and still be profitable?
Yeah. I think everyone's got to do their own thing, but I just think, I think I've kind of said my piece on it as a whole.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's like we just got to get sustainable. I think Valorant players and agents realize, okay, the first year of the league was a bubble with salaries and the quick amount of time, quick turn we had to get players and buyouts, and same thing with CDL. Oh my gosh, like we were buying players left and right, when that started. But this is a very long established league, and we're the new guys in it. So they can do what they want, and those are great teams. And Jack always puts together, the best effort. And same with FlyQuest. They want to be great. So I'd rather see that than some teams that don't do anything or just taking a check. Because like we said earlier, like it's a league, and everyone's got to be as strong as their weakest link, and everyone's got to create content and try and make it fun and engaging and reach out to that fan. And if the Immortals has an event in God knows where in Detroit, some bar or something, and there's 20 new people there who are interested in the game, that's really important to the survival of the league, and the things that you all love and talk about.
I guess a better spin on that then is C9's roster kind of has that vibe of like it's worlds or bust, and they're gonna try to make a deep run. How do owners, I guess in general of LCS, because Dave and I have talked about it a lot, make it more of hyping people up for LCS finals, making LCS finals seem like a very prestigious award? Because right now, it it feels like with this C9 roster, a lot of interviews I can already hear them coming, and they're going to is going to be, yeah, we're kind of focused on winning worlds or winning MSI. And how do you kind of reel that in as
Well,
owners like
did they say
talking
that
with
this
each
year
other?
also?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
I
then
was
it
in that
kinda-
press conference. I don't know if you were there, David, but
Yep.
I didn't get one question. I'm just sitting between, Jack and Steve, and then at the end, someone was like, "What do you think, Andy?" Like I was like, "I'm just happy to be here, I guess, because everyone's decided that we weren't even going to be in the finals." So
Yeah.
super teams look good on paper, but we've seen in every sport, super teams have to put it all together to win as well. And we love our guys, so we're just gonna do our best to try and compete with them. But they're probably the team to beat. And FlyQuest got a good team, and I'm sure there's some others that are feeling like they got a real good chance as well.
That press conference was hilarious. It was just people asking. I mean, Steve tends to talk a lot in those moments, and that's perfectly fine. But like people in the league scene, like they definitely have their favorites of who they want to hear from, who they want to see. And I know you guys didn't get a lot of attention initially, but gut feeling says there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on you and what you say going forward, and people will respect it more now that like you came in and busted down the door wide open from the start. Like regardless of whether people want to credit that to CLG and like the pillars that they set, or give you guys credit for bringing in the right pieces and making the right moves and putting out better content than most of the LCS has put out in 5 years. Like you guys are putting yourself at a very good seat on the table, and it's much appreciated from a fan point of view that somebody is caring, and it's not just coming in because you want to flip an asset.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we're been in it for the long run. When we got relegated, I was like, all right, this is too much. Back in the day, I couldn't imagine 8 years, 7 years later that we're still doing this. But it's a really good fit for us. The league fans are great. We started in league. This is where we learned, all of our tricks and took our lumps, and watched from the outside, very jealous for a lot of years because we just loved it and wanted to be a part of it. And this was a good fit with CLG because they had a really good team, and they had great coaches and good players, and they were good guys, and they were fun to be around, and it was good vibes. And as I think I mentioned to you, MSG has been great board members fantastic. It's one, great to have a deep pocket on our board, but also they know all this shit that they've gone through. And so when I say something and some of my other board members are like, well, why don't you just do this? And they're like, well, that's just not possible. Like that just doesn't exist in esports right now, and we don't have that money. So they're, a voice of reason amongst a bunch of people who are all just trying to do something great. And have some fun along the way. So this has just been a passion project. I think we're also different because we never took venture capital money. We don't have big investors. CLG owns a fair amount of the company now, but no one owns a huge amount, including me. We're just a bunch of guys who did this as fun to learn, some sports people. We got a bunch of celebrities in there who thought it would be fun. They weren't looking to up their profile. Like Shaq just wanted to have a team, and Jennifer Lopez and Alex Rodriguez and Tiesto, like they're really into gaming. So they did it, and they've been helpful, and they've been in our videos. And, we've had a lot of ups and downs. We've tried a lot of things that didn't work for sure, but we've definitely failed fast and moved on. And I think we continue to grow every year. So this was just a huge, great piece for us, and love the fact that we were able to do something good in our first year.
Forgot that Tiesto was an investor. I need to go see his show at Marquee now. And
oh, so good. So good.
Saw him at Electric Zoo for the first time this year, and he crushes it for an hour and a half straight. It's great.
He invited me out with another friend of mine who's also bald and old like me, and we go out, and he's like, let's do dinner beforehand. I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, I'll meet you at 12. I was like, midnight? He's like, yeah, I was like, okay. So we like got to see him, and not as a flex, he was just super cool, and we're in his box. And then he's like, okay, so I'm gonna go down and perform. And now it's like 1:30, and he's just starting, and he's like, and you guys can come down also, but I'll come get you. We're like, oh, well, someone will come get you. Like, okay. So we're waiting and waiting. He's going. Like eventually, like we go through the back, through the stage and through where the people are serving drinks, and we come up behind, and he's in there in his booth, and he's got like a white line on the ground, and there's a bunch of people behind wim who are much younger and much more attractive than we are, and the bodyguard guy bouncer puts us right in front, and then we're in front, we're like, okay, check it out, I'll get sushi in Japan, whatever, this is cool. And then like within 10 minutes, like you see Tiesto text the bodyguard, all of a sudden like, hey, you guys got to move in the back. Like we were totally blowing the whole vibe there with the old ball guys in the front, and all of a sudden we're like way in the back in the circle, but we lasted most of the show before it got super late. But he loves gaming. He's super into Counter-Strike. He loved Overwatch. He actually wore, when we had Sinatra on our team, he wore his all-star jersey on stage once.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's fun. He hosted our Counter-Strike team in his penthouse in Vegas before, because we had them out there as a team house, and he got to hang out with them and showed us his sneaker collection. Damn. Yeah, that's a good video. That's up on our somewhere. Oh my god, I have no idea where it is anymore, but it's somewhere on YouTube.
I'll link it in the description of this video. I'll find it and make sure I put it down there.
Yeah.
One final question from chat for you, because I know we've had you here for an hour. I don't want to take too much of your time. Somebody asked NRG's new CS team, NA or EU? I know people were fishing for anything they can get their hands on.
Jamie, I know you're listening. Can I say it? Jamie's gonna give me shit. I'm gonna say it anyway. We're gonna be NA. So we're all NA. We're an NA org. We have NA players. We have always made an effort to have an NA brand. I think that's why we've been so fortunate to have such a good year, especially this year with sponsors, because we don't have a fan base, in places where they're not selling their products. So being an old Apple ad guy, I can tell you our effort has been to aggregate as big an audience as we can in North America so we could sell to North American brands. And we're going to have a good team because Jamie's awesome and he's putting together a pretty good team. And our goal there is to make the major as soon as possible.
Get that sticker revenue coming in. Life is going to be good.
That would be good. So also, if for any of your chat there, which I can't see, but I'm happy to take any other questions from CLG fans who are still mad at us. But we have a lot of requests for the old logo because that's sort of how our Counter-Strike team did their, they did their thing before we changed over to our pretty straightforward logo. But we'll have people's thoughts on that as well.
Is that like the not pinkish purple, but the
kind of like with the little wheel in it,
because that's the one that I remember from Smite way back when. It was like that was my original That was
Smite. We won the championship with Smite. Also, forgot about that. That's the most fun team in Energy history for sure.
oh God.
Literally passed out, thrown up, drunk. 8 hours before, 6 hours before we had to wake them up. Those guy Raffer, those guys partied so fucking hard. I was like, we'll never win this. And then they like staggered on the stage and they're just like crushed everybody. It was great. 2 years in a row. That was
Oh,
fun.
It's the
God.
Josh Gordon system.
Atlanta. They were
But-
crazy.
I'm just happy that you guys ended CLG before TSM ended, so we could get them one last time.
That's the only thing you're okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste too much of your time. If you got any
Alright, cool.
questions for us as well, or like anything you want to talk about, floor is all
I
yours.
mean, I'd love to hear from you guys what, from a brand perspective, what do you think is lacking? How can we reach out to more fans? So I'd love to get the TSM fans, I'd love this guy to be our fan now. Obviously, you're delusional with your Optic 100 Thieves obsession, but maybe someday we can crack you out of that. But we'd love the TSM fans. I mean, Immortal fans, that's got to be hard. If they're, that's got to be a hard thing to do. We'll take those. How do we bring these guys over? What can we do?
I mean, the hardest part of getting a TSM fan over to NRG was going to be like the fact you bought CLG and I didn't like CLG. So how would I cheer for them? But then hearing you say, "Oh, they were mad at us. Who cares?" It made me go, "Oh, I kind of like that." That's like that old like TSM vibe, anyways, of just looking at people and being like, "Oh, you're mad. Who cares? Stay mad. We'll keep winning." And that kind of confident but not too cocky attitude I love about teams, because knowing that the team you have knows they can win at any moment, regardless of what people think the talent is around them, is like the best kind of feeling. And I mean, the roster you built is kind of like hard not to like love.
Oh, don't!
Because
You were shit
That's
talking Dokla
because-
for 3 years.
for 3
Oh, that's my
years,
favorite.
and then Dokla proved me wrong. But the hardest part for me to cheer for NRG will definitely be the fact that I spent so much time thinking Dokla wasn't good for him to just become big dokes, crush
Big dokes.
everybody, and run through a whole bracket. Like, kind of makes you sit there and go, huh, maybe
He's
I'm
a
wrong.
good dude. He's a good dude too. You can sit and talk
Yeah.
basketball with him. He loves basketball. It's
Yes.
a fun team, We got him. We got so I've been, I'm in LA now, but I've lived with my family in Palo Alto, Northern California for the last 13, 14 years. And the next town over is Redwood City, which is the home of 2 of our players, which is weird that they're 2 guys from the same town there.
Yeah.
It's not exactly like New York City. That's super good. And they're all so different, but this was a fun team to hang out with. I wish I got to spend more time with them. We really like them, and I think that they're just a great brand fit for us. And I should be super clear on the CLG side. Like, we would love to have all those fans, be a part of us. It was just hard when they didn't give us a chance right off the bat, and it's upsetting to have your name changes, and you lose a lot of what you loved. But it happens all the time. Like, I don't think Shopify is going to be called TSM. So it just happens, right? And
Yeah.
that's what happens in business and sports, and when companies get bought. And we struggle with the 2 brands, with Energy and the Shock. We had 3 brands. We had the Huntsman also with Hector for a while. Like, 3 brands sucks. 2 brands is bad. 3 brands is worse. But we have a championship brand in San Francisco Shock with back-to-back rings, these beauties here, and we half the people don't even know that it's Energy, and there's not much you could do there. So it was going to be really hard to retain the CLG name and make this thing work with sponsors, and it was hard enough to sell sponsorships. It's still hard, but having multiple brands and be like, okay, but yeah, well, the Energy is the corporate name. It's going to go on our major and main Twitter, but our Twitter for League of Legends is going to be called CLG. That's just like hard, but we love them. We love the passion.
Yeah.
Love them to come back.
What do we have to do to get Sapnap co-streams for LCS games?
He did a few.
Yeah, I know he did, and I loved watching
He's
those. Like,
super into it. He's super
yeah.
into it. Yeah.
He is the best. Like, genuinely, that got my brother actually watching too, because he's a sophomore in high school, and he was like, oh, it's Sapnap. Like I watched Sapnap, and he knows I like League, so he was telling me, "You seen NRG?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I'm like, I know they're crushing everybody, and TSM's about to be, leaving the league. So I was kind of like, whatever. He's like, "Yeah, they have Sapnap. Isn't that pretty cool?" And I was like, "Yeah, I get it. They're more hip than us. They're cooler." I was like, "You
Well,
gotta tell me."
Sapp is a legitimate fan. So of League, like he was so
Yeah.
happy when I said we were gonna do this, and like I go, "Do you think that's a good idea?" He's like, "Do I think that's a good idea? Are you fucking kidding me? That's like my dream." And then like he's bugging Jamie and Jonathan and Chris on every 2 seconds, like, so what's our strategy when it comes to And it's
Yep.
like, okay, okay, but he's what you see is what you get. So that's why I think he's like Shaq. He's like, what a great fit. Like, the guy's mega popular, but yet he wants to be part of everything. He's super excited. We're getting a Counter-Strike team. Obviously, he plays Valorant and, is our biggest cheerleader there. So that's been one of the best moves we've ever made.
It amazed me when people got angry at his and Carl's clip from, was it Worlds last year or final?
Raleigh, right?
Yeah, Raleigh, yeah.
Yeah, Raleigh.
When people got pissed at that, I was like, do you guys not understand it's just not meant for you? Like that type of
Yeah.
content, like their style of humor hits with so many people that you just gotta, like, if it's not for you, remove yourself from the situation and let new audiences come in, let people that find that funny to enjoy it. Like, it's working.
100% agree. Yeah, 100% agree. Just like that got more views than anything that weekend, and like that's a whole new audience that hopefully they say, "Oh, Sapnap likes this. Let me check it out. Let me check out this game." I mean, that's just what we have to do. The publishers have to work harder to get people who play the game to watch the game, and we have to work hard, hand-to-hand combat, shake hands. One of the things I loved about the Huntsman is when we had an event in Chicago. I forget where it was, but this was a fan meet and greet, and it was about 7 degrees, 8 degrees out, and the line was really long out the door, and it wasn't very well organized event. But I forget who was even one of the sponsors. It was like some maybe it was Monster or Rockstar. I hope it was Rockstar because that's our sponsor. But my son was there. He was in high school and flaming red hair, looks a little bit like Scump. Everyone was calling him Scump Jr. And it was like his first thing in business, and he was seeing, and he's like, how can I help? I said, why don't you go outside and I'll go with you, and let's just hand out drinks to everybody. Not that you want an energy drink when it's 7 degrees out, and let's just shake everybody's hand and say hi to everybody. And he's like, you serious? And we did. We must have shook 1,000 hands. And that was about 2 weeks before COVID happened. But like, it was a big lesson. I was like, this is how you make fans, right? And Hector's out shaking hands and Scump taking a picture with everybody. And it's more meaningful, than getting a tweet saying we're live now. And so you have to have live events, like you said. You have to have, people who are willing to put themselves out there and teams that are willing to put in that effort. And it was one fan at a time. And that's the way it's going to be if we're going to make this thing work.
I believe it was a Barnes and Noble, by the way.
It was like a 2-story thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
I vividly remember Hex's vlog because I was one of the guys that I'm fairly close to that was in esports space was Joe Porksheva that I know worked with you with NRG for a bit, went over to Optic for a while, and he was very bullish on the Chicago Huntsman early days, like even despite like the rebrand and obviously losing Optic, just like you had such a good core to build with, and COVID unfortunately just hindered everything. Like Chicago Call of Duty scene would have blown up to a level that we've never seen.
We had Wintrust Arena rented out for an event and started to sell tickets. We had a wait list. That would have been awesome. Yeah, COVID. That was right at the beginning of COVID. Yeah, that was terrifying. But that's how you do it. And that's, hats off to him. That's how he's been around. It's just people connect with you. You make content every day, and you go out and you meet people, and they stay with you, and you get new fans. And so we need everyone to make content. We need everyone to connect. We need more events sponsored by Riot. We need more awareness from Riot, more regional sort of battles. It was wonderful seeing the love or just the support. Like I knew a whole bunch of our, newfound fans for Energy weren't going to be Energy fans, when it was over, but they're NA fans. They wanted to see us do well. I loved it. It was super fun. Like you don't get that when the Sacramento Kings, we made the playoffs last year for the first year in a billion years. It wasn't like all of a sudden the Lakers fans like, okay, go Kings. It didn't work out that way. But for this, it was like, hey, let's go NA. Oh my God, hey, you won 3 in a row. Oh my God, we're in the hey, I would, chop my arm off for you guys to win this match and make it to the semis. Like that was very meaningful. This is one of the highlights of my 8 years doing this.
one of the things I've been pushing for, and I don't know if it's ever going to come, but I hope it does, is combined regional merch for Worlds. Like, especially that you can sell at summer finals, because by the time you get to summer finals, you know the 4 teams. I don't know if it's possible to have like a shirt or like a jersey that like preemptively has the 4 teams that we're sending on it, but just send something
Love
that
it.
you can just have NA pride that you go all out on. Because it's just like, come Worlds, regardless of who's on the other side of the rift, it's NA over everything. Like if it
Yeah.
whether it's NRG, whether it's C9, and it obviously it consolidates down as time goes on. Yeah, we might bitch and complain that Team Liquid bombed out to GAM, but at the end of the day, those Team Liquid fans are going to jump ship onto C9 or NRG, despite how much they hate them, despite the
Yeah.
agony that it might cause. Like you will join up, and that is unique to, honestly, probably to League of Legends than anywhere else, other than maybe Overwatch and the Overwatch League like World Cup thing that they did. That's the only other one I can think of that's close.
A little bit. Just World Cup is, not even comparison to, Worlds for League. Yeah. I think you're right. That was fun. That was definitely fun. Hopefully we can do it again. That's the goal.
And just the way you guys value, I would say LCS in general, like winning it. Because I mean, granted, I'm a TSM fan, so I'm gonna hate Cloud9, but it makes it a lot easier to hate on Cloud9 when they're making a Worlds run and not cheer for them, regardless of how far it goes. When I'm like, they've only cared about this all year. It'll be funny to watch them burn. So in my head, I'm like, let's watch it crash. But with your roster, you guys aren't saying, hey, we don't care about not winning LCS or winning it. It meant the world to us. We wanted to win LCS. It matters. And then that makes me go, okay, they care about winning here. That means they really care about winning there too. But more importantly, they care about the representation of NA and the region and the server, because our region in general has kind of, I would say, struggles in the pride aspect of believing we can do it or going far. And seeing a team that is relatively built of NA players or players that have been here for a long time and can make a run kind of resparks that hope in you that the server has a chance.
We're back. We're back. Just wait until our
Yeah, for Dave, we're just all the way back.
Oh, dude, I inject that shit straight into my veins every time. Like I'll be depressed for like 24 hours. And Paul, if I exposed our DMs, like that's the most depressed I will ever get. But I will never show that to the public. And then 12 hours later, he'll send a message in response to that, and I'm over it already. On to the next like positive thing. Moved on. He's like, what the fuck?
Well, the best part is we got a little bit more league to go, and then the season starts again so quickly. It's awesome.
God bless.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
We don't have to wait 5-6 months. I mean, your 100 Thieves Valorant team, haven't played in 200 days or something crazy.
Believe it or not, I watched no Valorant. I tried, even with 100 Thieves, whenever Optic sold. I mean, even whenever Optic was in it, and we had like one of the best teams in the entire scene. Couldn't get into Valorant. I don't know why, but League has legitimately ruined every game that's not Call of Duty for me.
There you go.
Couldn't explain it. Speaking of Call of Duty, I actually need to download the game because it comes out in 49 minutes or 39 minutes.
Right. Well, you can let me go, and I appreciate being on and talking, and happy to come back whenever, and just being part of the community. That's what we're trying to do. So appreciate the community support for our run, and hopefully they'll root for us again next year.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it more than you'll probably know.
Great to see you guys. Take care.
Yeah.
See you.
See you. Bye.
Paul, anything you want to, like, any post-interview thoughts that you want to kind of give?
His direction, I would say, gave me a lot more hope than what I listened to a lot of owners. But it also made me think, like, well, one, him saying that you're as good as your weakest link really makes me question, he can't say it, but how upset are some of these owners at, like, Immortals and what they're doing and the Digs, who are kind of not trying the hardest. I guess Dig is putting an effort now. But two, it was like, oh, this dude like cares about his profitability, cares about the region. He even said himself something that we've been saying: you gotta make LCS finals matter. And he goes, yeah, I want people to start caring that we won LCS. And I was like, yes, I was like, that's what we want. I was like, what?
I don't know. At certain points, I was a little worried that it was just stroking my ego and like
Yeah.
playing to exactly what I want. Because it's like, okay, is he just saying this because we're like, he knows what I believe in and is playing up to like that crowd, or this? But like, he legitimately believes that, and I feel like that's an understandable thought process. Like once,
Yeah.
I don't even know how to. I'm just like it. I was sitting there trying not to talk as much as possible because it's just like I could go on forever, and it's just like to finally have somebody at that level agree with it, to say it, to acknowledge that yes, we need to get out and do more besides just like these these regular season matches there. He didn't directly say like get out of LA, but clearly it was like it was alluded to as directly as you could without saying it.
Yeah.
But it was just like
he wants them out of LA. Let's be honest.
that was just that was so much fun.
As much as we realize it, it sounds like he realizes it as well, that not traveling is going to kill this league. Even at the end, when he's going on his talk about that story, was like so just mind blowing that he's sitting here telling us, hey, this time we were out there in the cold handing out energy drinks. That's where you get your fans. That's where you find them. I was like, dude, he gets it. Like, this is why he's been. I mean, obviously he gets it. Like, even if you could say they pulled off a massive upset, got lucky, whatever, to win this last trophy, like he's won in a lot of other leagues a lot of times. So losing is not foreign to their brand. And his coaching philosophy is kind of crazy. Like, that's something I don't think we really talk about on the podcast. That's kind of a DM thing we talk about usually, is our ideals on like how coaching needs to be a big deal. Like, and him just sitting there, like, bro, it literally felt like we had, I don't know, a owner who like is saying the things that we say.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange.
It was funny watching, or it was funny hearing him say about like FlyQuest and Jack just like overspending what they said they were gonna do before, and it's just like, yeah, that's exactly what's happened for so long, and kind of reading between the lines of what he was saying about like rosters and like looking up, or like he mentioned once about a player that he was potentially excited to bring in case something didn't work out. I'd be curious to know who threw money at players from NRG, because you know they got offers. You know somebody tried to pick some of them up. I'm looking at Palafox specifically. Like Palafox, in my mind, like FlyQuest still has not announced their mid laner, and he's a free agent. Larson is no longer going to be coming over here. Like I'd imagine FlyQuest, they don't need a resident mid laner, but if they can get him, why would you not? And it's just like, I mean, he's talking about that, about spending responsibly. It was just like, it was so nice to hear. Also, I hope, and chat, let me know if I'm wrong here, but I think we got a satisfactory answer that most people should be okay with when it comes to the John and Myra situation. I know a lot of people were pissed off about that, and as I questioned people on social media more, they kind of understood that this is exactly what I figured. They were let go, and their responsibilities are being absorbed by people that are already within NRG. So you're saving money on salaries, you're restructuring and allowing like the NRG systems to take over rather than CLG systems, which will still keep as many of the players and coaches intact as they can, obviously, but allowing them to do their thing. I think, like, to me, we got the answer that I was expecting.
Yep.
I don't know what people would have been expecting differently. I don't know. I don't see any drama coming from that.
It made sense listening to him. Like, even when we asked him about the brand, he was kind of just like, we know the brand. Like, I feel like our brand is established and all this. And hearing him say that, I was like, yeah, it makes sense in my head now why you moved on from them. Like, because you already have what you want in their org. They seem to know their systems, and they added a coach from CLG. They knew they didn't want to be CLG too much, obviously, the way he was talking. And they were willing to move on from them because they feel like they have good roster builders already. And they have people who can handle managing a team, which is unfortunate for John and Mira, but that's also part of life. Like when your company gets bought out, it's just like kind of a tough thing. Like obviously with Disney, when you guys buy somebody out, you do a lot of absorbing and responsibilities go to people who can handle it in your head and
No
Disney's
comment.
mind. Yeah, and they do what they do. And that's kind of what happened here. Like they were like, "Hey, we'll employ you for the rest of the year," which is very nice of them. We'll employ you until it comes time to go hunt for a roster, and then you're gonna have to go do what you got to do. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not like they didn't not let them know. They just were unfortunately, in his words, not mine. They just kept winning.
Well, yeah, and John said the same thing on Hotline League,
Yeah.
which is true. Like if you're in that situation, you feel bad because it's like it would have been better for their careers, like at least John and Myra's, to lose earlier technically,
Mhm.
because then you're gonna have more open roles with other people. Uh,
Yep.
but you kept going, which is great because you're going and you're representing North America in a great fashion. But it's bad because now people's budgets are likely set for next year. Roles are probably already established, and you can't. It's bad timing. I fully expect both of them to have jobs, uh, and everything else soon. Like whether that's this split or
Yeah.
next or like going into next year, they will have something. Uh, it's just that's the nature of the sports world, and it's really unfortunate that sometimes that stuff happens, and that's the league ecosystem.
And he seems to get like he seems to fully get everything about it. I mean, obviously he's a very successful man at probably like everything he does, so
Yeah.
it's not hard for him to get it. But League is like not in a spot where you can keep people around because you like them.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely in a spot where like you have to make the tough decisions right now and you have to keep the company going. And right now the tough decision is
Yeah.
we have to get rid of you to consolidate because we already have people who can do this job and it doesn't make any sense for us to have three, four, whatever people on staff doing the same job.
And the thing that I'll add to respond to Rohan's comment, he said, has that roster management been transferred over to the coaches? It's not going to the coaches. If you go back and listen, there's one name that he dropped that I knew was probably going to take on that responsibility, and that's Jamie, who's their director of esports. He will be responsible for that in addition to the coaches. So like you're taking one person's responsibilities and splitting them appropriately between the head of esports and the coach. The coach will take on more of a role of, I need these players. We might have these conversations. He might be more involved there. And Jamie will probably be more in charge of directly like making those calls, making final decisions. Budgetary restrictions will be communicated by him, stuff like that. Like you're restructuring in a way that makes sense. So it's not like that roster management knowledge and expertise. Jamie's been doing that for other NRG teams for a long period of time. Now, yes, he's getting his feet wet with League of Legends now, but Jamie's a smart guy, so that's gonna be it's gonna be fine. That's all. So, like I trust Jamie. I've seen his work in other esports and seen his work around NRG. I think they'll be more than fine in that regards. But
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I wasn't able to listen to all of it because I kept getting spam texted. But but overall, like it does make sense. Like you're going to have to do what you have to do, and that's just what happened there. And then I'm gotta go back to that Craw Cook comment he made about how it was funny watching him throw shade at Activision. I don't
yeah.
even know if it was just shade. I think he just fully kind of said it.
Yeah,
He was
it
like,
wasn't even Jay. It's just like
yeah, he
you
was just
suck.
like, you sucked. Like that was kind of funny watching him say like, "Yep, you guys are whatever, you're annoying," and he just moved on, and I was like, "That's funny." I was like, "That's pretty
I
funny."
wasn't gonna press it because it's like there are like ongoing negotiations with the Overwatch League and everything else. That's like
Mm.
Also, he really had to throw shade at me for the whole Optic 100 Thieves thing. Really?
That was funny.
Really?
I liked that he was like, "We want to get you. We want the TSM fans, and we want even Dave, who's delusional, 100 Thieves." And I was like, "Wow, he's trying to get everybody." And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like I wasn't really up until now considering NRG, but if like I said, if he can pull through on those sapnap ones, I'd take it. The big thing holding me back from NRG is personal biases, such as how can a man become a fan of a team that employs now LCS champion Dokla when he said the things he said in the past.
Well, okay, so my understanding of your fandom right now is that you seem to be down to Shopify Rebellion and NRG. I don't think there's any other team that's really interested in you. I don't think 100 Thieves is going to do it for you, given that we're going budget this year either. Like,
FlyQuest as well interests me. But the problem is FlyQuest, their roster currently interests me. And I'm going to word it like this because I would like to watch. I want to cheer for Shopify because of the players left behind from TSM, which is Boogie and Insanity, right?
yeah.
And I'd want to cheer for FlyQuest because of the current players there. I think Masu is really interesting, and I find Whippo and Inspired interesting. But I don't really care for either of those orcs. I have no clue who Shopify is, and I have no clue what they're doing, and I haven't really seen anything from them. So I don't care about them.
So I will say, I've emailed somebody within upper management of Shopify, and I will be putting out a content piece with him that I'm gonna make it a YouTube video likely, unless he wants to do the podcast. But I gut feeling says it's probably just gonna be a YouTube video, asking those questions of like, what brand are you trying to build here? Because you're now basically you're competing with NRG. You're the two new faces. Like what separates you from them? What separates you from everybody else? And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, I like their roster that's rumored so far. Like Fake God, Insanity, Boogie is a great start, and it sounds like they might be changing out the bot lane for if rumors are to be believed from Travis, they might be winning the Meech and Zazel sweepstakes from Disguised Toast. So that's potentially a very exciting roster
For Shopify. But that's also like none of that roster, like being a realist, because now I don't have to be biased because I don't have a team. That roster's probably not gonna win.
No, it's not about that roster winning though. It's about like when you're picking a brand, you're picking a team that you identify with.
True.
That you can put your heart and soul into. It doesn't matter whether they're winning or losing. You just have enough to identify with them that it carries through. And
I'm selling me more on NRG.
I know that's why I was saying that, because it's like Shopify, I feel like the only reason you're considering them is because there is that holdover of TSM. But do you identify with anything brand value as of right now that Shopify has? I would say no. FlyQuest,
yeah.
I'm sorry. I know you. Your personality is not FlyQuest. FlyQuest is all like wholesome, happy, like, you know, we're caring, we're this and that. And it's like, I don't really see you as a tree hugger either.
No.
NRG fits your personality, the people they have involved. Andy just seems like your type of guy that, like,
the way that man said, like, there's just something about listening to an owner, like, basically just giving a fuck you, I want to win mentality that, like, just got me going. I was like, this guy gets it. He gets sports. I was like, he gets it.
Wow.
Now, granted,
the guy that owns a NBA team and a minor league baseball team gets sports. Wow, who would have fucking guessed?
Fair enough. But I was like, I like this attitude. I mean, even so, when he talks about the Kings, like, he's so in tune with sports that when he talks about the Kings, he low-key kind of insinuates that letting go Tyrese Halliburton hurts his soul a little bit.
I know.
Like, that's hilarious. Like, he's like, no, I get what we got makes sense, and we made playoffs, and we made this run. But at the same time, Tyrese Halliburton looks pretty good in that Pacer blue. Like, he's just sitting there like, I mean, 45 points, 13 assists is kind of a lot. No, and he's just kind of sitting there. And I was like, dude, he loves the game. Like, genuinely just loves the game, loves the competing. I mean, if Sapnap did a ton of co-streams, like it would go crazy. It'd go so hard. And I know he was doing them. I just like
He wasn't
wanted
doing them
more.
consistently, is my
Yeah.
thing. Like it wasn't like Dom or LS or
Yeah.
Kometo like style where it's like
But
every single time he's co-streaming it.
he co-streams a lot of Valorant, so I'll give him that. Like my brother loves that he co-streams Valorant so much. It's kind of like that Daltouche thing with what is it? Apex Legends. Like there's just certain guys who seem to dominate co-streaming certain games, and I don't know. He kind of won me over, which I don't want to become a fan of a team just because I got to sit in on well, I guess participate in as well. But my buddy pulls me in on an interview with their CEO. But at the same time, he kind of sold me. He did kind of sell me.
Do you okay, but here's the question then. Do you think if I got like Steve on here, could Steve sell you on Team Liquid?
Nah, fuck them and fuck Jack. No offense, love them. They're great people, probably, and they did great things for LCS, and they're continuing to do the great things that I won't talk about what my team did, which was to LCS, but they're continuing.
And
to,
then their fucking general manager
communicate.
try and talk shit on Twitter about them leaving. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to do that Andy interview on the podcast, I'll be all ears, but I don't know if we're gonna get them.
No, I don't think that's ever
For some
coming.
of the jokes we've made.
Oh god, no, I don't think it's ever gonna happen. To address Burrow in chat, you gonna get other owners here. I mean, look, if any other owners want to come on and talk, I'm always down. You know me, I'm willing to talk to anybody about anything. Even if I hate you to your core, I will sit here, let's have a beer and let's talk. Is that gonna happen? I don't know. I've never cold messaged like Steve. Like Andy is legitimately the only owner in the space that I have talked to prior to this. Him and I met up at LCS finals and talked a little bit, and we said we'd catch up later, and then everything with the staff came out, and I put my tweet out, and that led to a conversation that obviously got us here. I would like to get more coaches and managers on. I feel like coaches I'm a little bit weary on, just because coaches the conversation with coaches tends to be more like game focused. Whereas Paul and I, we're Emerald and Plat players. I wouldn't say that like our game knowledge is going to be able to keep up with them. Like if they're down to shit talk and meme for the hell of it, then great. But like managers tend to be more in line with like the sport of how it is, like behind the scenes, like stuff like that we like. But I'm open to anything at the end of the day. So I'll reach out to some people. I don't go out of my way to like intentionally try and get guests unless there's something like very, very specific that I want to do. Like whenever Jay came on for World stuff, that was great and fitting, and like it made sense. Andy, given everything going on right now, it made sense. I don't know. We'll see. I would love to get John Robinson on here or Nate Shot. I would love Nate Shot specifically. John Robinson, him and I could talk business forever. But Nate Shot, brother, I'll send him. I know he's probably gonna be busy having his kid and shit. So like obviously, he's gonna be busy. But
Yeah.
that's one, dude. I feel like Nate Shot and I could go back and forth and sit here and have a fucking argument that's so much fun for an extended period of time. One day.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
I mean, really, it's just I hate to be a sappy guy right now, but I am grateful that you bring me on here, and thank you. That's pretty insane. I know it's sappy, but
No, it's not.
I don't say that often. This is a pretty crazy crazy environment that we've gotten to. Like, this is probably the first one in a while that we've really prepped for.
Oh,
We actually talked about what we were gonna do.
to pull the curtain back before we close it out, dude, we were like, when did I send a message yesterday? Or was that 2 days ago? Where I was like, oh, this shit just got real. Like,
Yeah, when
like,
you released the announcement 2 days
yeah,
ago.
that started popping up. I was like, oh man, wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah.
Prior to this, it was just a conversation with somebody that I've talked to before.
Mhm.
Now all of a sudden, the reality kicked in of like, fuck, this guy's got a lot of money and a lot of influence. Like,
Yeah.
don't want to say anything dumb here.
And it turns out he's like probably one of the coolest owners in the league. Like, I feel like he has to be.
I've been saying that since before they got into the league. There's a reason why I've been tracking their stats since 2020. But
Yeah, that was like, I don't know. He came in and he just started talking, and I was like, all right, maybe you've won me over, pal. But I hate being a bandwagon fan, and you know that.
I think
It's tough for me to go to a team that wins.
fair, but I think I know what I'm gonna get you for Christmas this year. You need something to get you over the line. It's like, maybe you will, maybe you won't. But then if you have like an NRG shirt in your closet or like a jersey or something, all of a sudden.
The thing with FlyQuest was that I was like, when they announced the roster and they also had Busio, I was like, well, they haven't announced it, but rumors are enough these days.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, they might have one of the most like fun to watch style rosters. Like
absolutely.
the things they're gonna do are gonna be crazy. But it's just what you said. Their brand kills me on the inside. It makes me die. I cannot cheer for a team that acts so happy. I need people who are broken when I'm broken. Like, I need that. That's what I am. Like, that's why I love Colts stuff, because Colts Twitter is like one of the most real things of all time. That's why I love NFL football, because Colts Twitter people die on the inside when that team is losing. Like this season, when he went down, they were like, please, dear God, save us. And they posted like just dark memes, like saying like, oh, it's over, I guess. Like they start saying Minshew Mania's here, but then they put like a picture under it of like a guy with like darkened out eyes. That's the kind of stuff you need. Like, obviously their main account doesn't put that. They put it on like those alt fan accounts, but that's why you need those. And like, that's what that does. And I feel like NRG kind of has that vibe. Like, it was funny listening to him though, saying like, we took this as a learning experience and then just somehow ended up keep winning. No, it was like, it happens. It was like,
Oh man. Well,
also crazy that the 2 rings he has from Overwatch don't say anything about his brand. Like,
that's
being NRG.
Yeah. I think the side panel might, but I
oh, okay.
Blizzard was like very explicit of like your brand cannot tie into your parent company at all. Like it was the dumbest decision ever.
Seems crazy to me.
But all right, that's it for us. Thank you all for tuning in. Next week we will talk about Roster Mania more. We didn't obviously touch on it all that much now, but also we will have a Worlds final to discuss. What are your final picks for this week publicly so they're out there?
I mean, I'm gonna keep going JG because it's obvious, and BLG. I think, yeah.
I'm going T1 Weibo.
Fair enough, but I think the thing about BLG is that they match up really well with Weibo.
I agree, but everybody matched up well against DRX prior to Worlds last year. So
yeah, Weibo could do it, but also
it's the Shy's birthday.
But with JDG, I think it's just obvious. Like, do we have to say it? They are probably like, this is Ruler's time to kind of.
If they lose this series, Ruler's gonna have some questions to answer, because if Guma this game is going to be decided by bot lane in my mind. Unless Kanavi and Owner like really take over the game, I just feel like it's going to be a battle of the ADCs. And
Mhm.
if Guma is on, oh, be
Ruler's the
ready
best AC in the world.
overall. But who's going to be better on the day? It's all that matters.
I'll take Ruler. And also, I'll take Kanavi.
I would take Kanavi over Owner in general.
Yeah.
But T1's the hot hand. Don't bet against the hot hand.
You're the worst. The hot hand. They won just as much as if they won less than JVG.
You know what they didn't
Well,
do?
no, they.
You know what they didn't
What?
do? They did not beat the 3 seed. Because you know what happens? Whoever beats the LPL 3 seed goes on to win Worlds every year for the last 4 years.
Okay.
Guess who beat the LPL 3 seed?
T1.
T1. On that note, good night, everybody.
is-
We'll catch you later.
Okay. This is when he did that NA one last year and how to work out.
Yep.